Hi everybody, welcome from Bala, and it's a beautiful day. It was supposed to be raining and it is a beautiful day. You can't trust anyone who says that they are doing any kind of weather forecasting. I don't think you can forecast the weather anymore. I hope you can hear me on this. The wind's quite strong and I forgot my second part of my microphone. It's always the same, isn't it? It's always the same. So today what I would like to do is just tell you a little bit about what we do here in Bala as priestesses. Now there is a temple of Bala run by a priestess of Caradwyn, who's an amazing woman, Kelly, and Rachel Jones, who is the person who runs the temple on a day-to-day basis. And I was just looking at it because they're rejigging things, which is lovely. But when I first came here in 2015, there was nothing here. There was nothing here. They call it Llyn Tegid. Tegid is the name of Caradwyn's husband. So she is not mentioned, but certainly he is mentioned, and that's really important. Why is it important? Because it means that she and the story is in consciousness, is here in consciousness in Bala, even if they're denying the goddess part of it. So the story starts that once upon a time, a man lived at Penllyn. Penllyn is the head of the lake, which is just behind me. And he lived there, and he was a gentleman. It says he was a gentleman, which means that he was some sort of higher being. It means that he was probably gentry or aristocracy, or at least he was akin to that. Now there are two parts that I want to explain to you. The actual story starts talking about Caradwyn and Tegid as if they are just normal, everyday humans who are living here in Bala in a lovely house that we have rented on a regular basis. Obviously not their house, but Penllyn. And that they are well known in the area, and that they're well respected in the area, and that she is a herbwise. She is a woman who knows how to heal people. She makes lotions and potions. She collects herbs, and she is well known and well respected for her work. Now you have to understand that this is a Brythonic Celtic story. It means that it's the remnants of the Celts that were pushed by the Romans into Wales and into Cornwall had survived here. The language had survived here, the knowledge had survived here, the knowing had survived here. So it was a really interesting thing to have a story that is sort of starts like that. So she's a herbwise, a Suin Uraig. Now Suin is magic, Uraig is woman. So she is slowly moving from her normal everyday humanity into something more occult, into something more magical. And so she is well known for her, well respected for her abilities, and people come to her and they want her to help them with all sorts of things: illness, pregnancy, not pregnancy, fertility, all of that. And they have 2 children, it says in the story. In the original story, well, the second original story, I don't like Ellis Griffith's story because it is very, very scathing about women in general. Ellis Griffith was known to be an absolute horrible misogynist, and he didn't like women. So Llewellyn Sian is the person whose story I tell you now. So yeah, so he they have 2 children. One is in the triads being said to be one of the 3 most beautiful girls in the world, and it is Craerwi, and she is the daughter of Caradwyn. So however, we know that her brother Morvran, Sea Raven, Avakthi, is considered to be the darkness, the utter darkness. Avakthi means utter darkness. He is the complete opposite. Now, somebody once said to me that because Caradwyn is a shapeshifter, and we know that from the centaur part of the story, and she can change into a whatever she wants to change into. That her original form was that of a wild boar or wild pig, so very dark, very, very strong bristles. And when Avakthi is born, he has that that skin where you have warts and then you have those strong dark bristles. So he actually looks a little bit like a, well, supposedly like a mix between a wild boar and a human. Now, there are several myths in the Celtic, especially in the Mabinogi and in the Celtic tradition, where there are pigs play a role. Kilhuch and Olwen is one of them. So there is something about the sanctity of pigs, actually, because at one point Puig is given the wonderful pigs of the other world by Araun. These are all stories to do with pigs. However, in this story, the young boy is vilified because he looks different, because he is different, because he is so ugly that people can't possibly look upon him, talk to him, play with him, and he is a very lonely child if it wasn't for his sister, who looks after him, who defends him, who takes care of him. Now, some people say that they are twins, night and day. Some of them say that they are that Krairwi is older than Avakthi. I've always gone with that. It always seemed to me that she was the big sister, especially if they say she had to protect him against some of the children who were very cruel to him. And when we get to the part where Caradwen finally loses her cool, and she finally says, enough is enough. I've seen enough cruelty towards my child. I've seen enough. You people that I look after should look after my child. You should take him for who he is. You should, but you won't. And I can't put that expectation on you. What I can do is I can use my power and my strength and my magic to make things different for him. And this is when we notice for the very first time properly that she is a witch, that she is a magician, a magika, whatever you want to call her, a gwydon, whatever you want to call her. The word witch actually doesn't exist in Celtic language. It doesn't exist in the Welsh language. Gurach is witch, but that's a later addition to the language. What they used to call them was Suinuraig, which is the magic woman, and so there was not that thing about, you know, the Christianity, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, and all of that stuff. So so she rides. Well, first of all, that means that they were quite wealthy. She takes a horse, she rides to Dinas of Aaron, which is about 30 minutes from here, a bit more perhaps, and it was an actual place. Now, Dinas of Aaron means the city of pharaohs. There is also a story about Vortigern and the tower that he tries to build, and that is part of Merlin's story. I won't go into that, otherwise I'll confuse you. But the interesting part for me is that she gets there, and the Ferricht, the alchemists, the top dogs of the druids, open the door. They just open the door. She doesn't have to knock, she doesn't have to holler, she doesn't have to announce herself. They see her coming and they just open the door. That's how it goes in the story. So she's special. We know she's special, and she's special to them. They offer her the use of their library. Now, the library at Dinas of Aaron, if you believe some of the theories and some of the legends, would be akin to the Alexandrian library that was burned down. You can still, when you come to Wales in this life, in this time, see some of the ruins of what used to be Dinas of Aaron. And so she rides in there, and she goes and she consults a book. Now, this is a problem. It's a problem for me, for sure. Because why would someone like Caradwen use the magic that compels? And I've talked about this a lot. Compelling magic is magic that is used mostly by the masculine, by the men, by the Ferisht, by Gwion, Gwydion, by all of these, by Mab, by these people who need a wand to compel the magic, to direct the magic to what they want to do. The magic that Ceridwen uses usually is more of the feminine, more of the nature-based magic. It isn't high magic, it is nature-based magic, and that's all she needs. So this time we know two things. She's looking for compelling magic, and it is considered more masculine, more Gwydion, more high magic. So there are two types of magic in the Celtic mythology, in my opinion, yeah? It's always only ever my opinion. And some people will say that maybe 23 years of working with this isn't enough to know what I'm talking about. But you know what? I think it is. So she goes and she has a recipe now. And she starts getting the cauldron out. Now, the cauldron is a very specific cauldron. There are several cauldrons in the stories, in the Welsh stories and in the Irish stories. And one of the stories is the cauldron of death and rebirth. Now, is that the cauldron she's using? The cauldron of death and rebirth in one of the stories is the cauldron in which the slain warriors of the tribe are dipped in, stayed overnight, and then they come out and they are alive again. And they're really strong, but they can't speak because the dead can't speak, and they're not allowed to speak about what they've seen in the other world, in the underworld. And this is the thing, what is the underworld, what's the other world? Hello, somebody's flying right over my head. Thanks, mate. No respect for the artist. Anyway, so it is a really interesting thing. So why are we here at Lake Bala when we are priestesses? The fact that Ceridwen is shown herself to be a Gwydion, a high magician, is that she then walks the initiatory path. What I mean by that is that it takes, we all have that natural magic in us. We all have that natural magic. If we dig deep and remember our place, then we have all got that knowledge, that Gwydion, that knowledge, that Suinuraig knowledge in us, that Suinuraig knowledge that knows that all of nature is magic, that the plants are magic, the herbs are magic, that the trees are magic, and the crystals are magic. We all know that. Certainly we do now. But then there is that other place, that other magic, that higher magic. And in order to be akin or able to understand the higher magic, you must be initiated. And here's the crux, folks. People wander around and self-initiate and do this and do that. Now, I'm an old-fashioned Wiccan. Yeah, I'm an old-fashioned Wiccan, and I do believe that it takes somebody who actually knows what they're doing to initiate you. And that means that they will have had some training, same as the Gwydion had to train for a long time to understand the magics and the compelling magics and the banishing magics and the binding magics and the blood magics and all of that, yeah? It's a huge responsibility. You don't just wander around and you know, whatever you see written in a book. Yeah, well, you know, anyway. So there you are. In order to be initiated, you have to go through an ordeal. And that ordeal has to be something where you stop and think, am I really ready for this? Do I really want to be a priestess of that dark goddess, of that Gwydion, of that knowing? Do I really want to know what this is all about? Or do I want to just be every day, you know, self-devoting, self-dedicating priestess of Ceridwen or whoever? And that is the big difference. Initiation means suffering, means rebirth. You have to die. It's a bit like shamanism. Yeah, in shamanism there is a place, is a time where you will have to show your mettle, where you have to show your strength. And especially in the second spiral, when you start going towards your initiation, is the thinking about what is it? Do you really? Because I tell you something now, if you do initiate, if you're initiated by Caradwen, if you're initiated through an initiated priestess, and it has to be an initiated priestess, you cannot go any other way. If you go that, it means you made a commitment. You made a vow to the goddess. And it's not the kind of vow where you can go, yeah, thanks very much, thanks for the certificate, off I go, bye. We keep learning. That's the wonderful thing about being part of the Caradwen crew, is we keep learning, we keep discovering together. People bring their knowledge, their wisdom, all of their stuff that you know, they want to explore, you know. And one day, somebody said to me, you're all under a mass delusion, you're all a cult, you're all bloody mad. There have been initiated witches and initiated wise people, male, female, and everything in between, for millennia, for as long as we've been on this planet. There have been seers, healers, wisdom keepers, everything, bards, shamans, you name it, we've had them, always. Where there's been a tribe together, there's always been people who've known more, who've seen more, who opened their inner eyes, their inner sight. And can everybody do it? I believe everybody is psychic. I believe everybody can see. I think most of the time people get bad dreams because there are warning signs, there are symbols, there are things that they will be told by others. But most of them put it down to a bad dream, and then they walk on in life. When they're not ready to receive that they have been given a message for maybe a lot of people, maybe the whole of humanity. At the moment, what we see a lot of, and this is the difference between being self-dedicating and initiating, you will have your sight opened and you will be dragged into things. So yeah, be careful what you wish for. You know, don't use initiation as an ego boost, because if you open yourself up, stuff will come through. Beings will come through. And Caradwen is the one that keeps the ones that are not supposed to be to the highest good away from you. That's why you initiate as a priestess or priest of Caradwen, or of any other group. If you are an initiated person, it doesn't matter who to, then they are your protector, the ones who look after you. Yeah, it's really important to have that connection with the divine, with a divine being. It doesn't matter what you call them, but it really is important. And this is why, you know, in the old days there were Christian witches and wizards, not wizards, Christian witches, male and female, just as much as they are in paganism today. If you think that's not the case, then maybe you need to do some more research. Anyhow, so when you see things, when you get visions, as a seer you get visions. You get them in daytime, you get them at nighttime, you get them in your dreams. You can direct yourself to go into that dreamland, into the astral plane. You can visit, you can go, you can work there, you can do things. And we are at this moment of time, and when I say we, I mean all sorts of denominations, all sorts of warriors, of particular groups of people who understand that there is different dimensions to the world, and they are all girded loins, warriors, swords, because there's a battle going on. If you think there's a battle going on here on this planet, on this earth, on this plane, you have no idea what's going on elsewhere. Some people say there's an apocalyptic battle of good and evil. I've never believed in evil. I always thought evil was in the heart of man and women and anything in between, before anybody starts whining. For me, that is the truth. But I also know that there are other beings in the world, in the planes, other beings in the planes, who have exactly the same wishes for power, for maybe wealth, maybe they like people to be subjugated, dominated, you know. I think that we as human beings are not the only ones who have it in ourselves to be the worst possible people. There is something in some people so broken, or maybe they were never born with it. Maybe there are different levels of people in the world. I don't know how it comes that somebody can easily harm a child, harm a woman, harm another man, harm an animal. I don't know what it takes. And I don't necessarily feel that it's always about how they were brought up. When you look at the research of most mass murderers, there's a good balance, not very few, but there's a good balance between people who were absolutely horrifically mistreated and people who had a normal, everyday life, who were looked after, who were loved, and yet something in them was so desperate to be domineering, to be seeing somebody hurt, seeing somebody harmed. I can't imagine taking pleasure out of that. But then they probably can't imagine what it's like to be like me. So, you know, and I don't want to use the word normal, because that's certainly not necessarily what I am. So blunt. Anyway, so being initiated means that you step up, you step in, you become someone who steps into service. You almost don't have your own life anymore. You are constantly called, whether that is on this plane or whether that is with messages from Facebook or whatever the heck, you know. Our ministry is very often just answering messages by people who are in distress, who are upset, who need a listening ear. Loads of people now talk about, you know, we started with sacred listening 15 years ago. Now there's all sorts of, you know, other listening services, including, of course, the normal everyday listening services, but they actually been scaled down at a great rate. Sacred listening is a very specific skill, a very good skill, and it means that you have to have a very strong rooted basis, because some of what you will be told will be absolutely making your hair stand on end, like mine right now. So being initiated means that you are always ready for service, and that means sometimes putting your own life on the back burner, your own family on the back burner. I sometimes have to say to my family, are you on fire? Are you hurt? Are you in hospital? No, then I need to get on with what I'm doing. I'm needed elsewhere. And they are used to that by now, and they understand that by now, and they support me. And I don't think you could do what I do without the support of your family. I see so many priestesses in the training who you know, when they did the first year, the sister of Caradwyn or brother of Caradwyn, that they were, you know, the partners were fine with that. It was all just a jolly to Glastonbury and yeah, blah, blah, blah. When the second year comes and the turn comes and suddenly you have to put others before your own people, there is a resistance, there's a resentment, and there's anger, and there is rage to a certain degree. I've had some horrific messages from partners of people who are doing training with me, asking me how it is that their partner changed so much. Well, the whole point of this training is transformation, is becoming stronger, more decisive, not emotionally stunted anymore. That you understand your emotions, you work with your emotions, and you love yourself unconditionally. That you will not allow anyone to push you down and make you, you know, an afterthought. That you are important to yourself. And that is part of the most important learning for us. And then it means that we also are capable of being in service to others, whether that is in the natural world, in the real world, as people some call, normal world, mundane world, whatever the hell you want to call it, or in the other planes, in the other dimensions. And there is a battle going on. I personally am not a warrior, although on the astral, you know, most of you know that I'm differently abled, and on the astral plane I am the same person as I am now, but it is my etheric blueprint, so my hands are completely and utterly normal. But I'm a healer, that's my job. My job is healing and teaching, but I'm there with my brown satchel around my neck, a brown satchel that I actually have in the mundane, that I go foraging with. I have medicines in there, oils, creams, lotions, very often plasters. You know, I take normal everyday stuff up into the astral plane. It doesn't really matter what you do. But there we are, suturing people, you know, bandaging people, splinting broken bones, all of that stuff. And you see, the thing is, once you're a healer in whatever life, you have the knowledge within you, so you can do all of those things in the astral plane. You can call upon that knowledge whilst you're in the astral plane. Now, some of you will sit and watch this video and go, what the hell is she talking about? What is she talking about? It's why we call ourselves the Gwydon, the knowing ones. The Gwydon are those who can recall the lives that they've had before, and at certain points in their life, when they need to remember something that they were taught in other lives. Yeah, I've never sutured a wound in my life in this world at this time. However, I could tell you and talk you through the process, no problem at all. From cleaning raggedy ends up to how to actually, what kind of needle to use, etc., etc. It is inside of us. All the love, all the understanding, all the knowing is inside of you. It needs to be unlocked, and initiation unlocks that. So here at Bala now, I am. Beautiful clouds behind us. I'm just in love with the clouds. Beautiful clouds behind us. And I've waffled on enough. I hope you enjoy the video. If you are interested in learning anything, please let me know. I'm always happy to either signpost you to somebody that is the right teacher for you. Some of you may look at me and think, I actually wouldn't mind hearing some more about this. There's lots of free videos on our YouTube. There's also some taster session videos on our YouTube from a couple of weeks ago where I explained a bit more about what's on the course. And right now, it is really important that each and every one of us asks himself or herself or themselves, what is my power? What am I able to give? And how will I help the world become a better place? The world is beautiful. You can see that right behind me. Look at how beautiful this world is. But there is a change coming, and that change needs to be managed carefully, and everyone needs to step up and help out. There is no point in hiding behind Netflix. Every now and then you're allowed to binge watch something, but when you find yourself doing that each week, every day, then you're hiding. You're hiding. Please step up. Please help, because there are generations coming after us who will be asking us, where the hell were you when all this went so wrong? Blessed be.